Captain Vex Marin orders his crew to conduct deeper scans of the blue planet, his silver-scaled fingers tapping impatiently on the command console. Analyze their communication networks and defense systems, he instructs Science Officer Trelzin, whose compound eyes blink rapidly in acknowledgement. Captain, I'm detecting something unusual, reports Trelzin after several moments. The humans appear to be broadcasting their military capabilities openly. We're intercepting thousands of what seem to be historical archives of their warfare. On the main view screen, images flicker of human conflicts. Tanks rolling across deserts, aircraft carriers slicing through oceans, satellites orbiting the planet. The Imperial crew watches with mild curiosity, interpreting the footage as primitive entertainment rather than actual historical records. Their weapons rely on combustion and kinetics, observes Weapons Officer Kralvex with obvious disdain. No energy shields, no graviton beams, not even basic neural disruptors. He lets out a chittering laugh that spreads among the bridge crew. Captain Vex Marin nods, his crest rising with confidence. Prepare a detailed report for the Emperor. Recommend a standard Class 3 subjugation force. He pauses, studying the blue-green planet rotating slowly on the view screen. Though these humans seem numerous, their technological development indicates they'll make excellent laborers in the mineral extraction colonies. Meanwhile, on Earth, at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico, Dr. Elena Rodriguez notices an anomaly in the deep space monitoring data. That's strange, she murmurs, adjusting her glasses as she peers at her computer screen. The signal pattern doesn't match any known stellar phenomenon. Her colleague, Dr. James Chen, leans over her shoulder. Could be equipment malfunction. We did have that power surge last week. No, look at the consistency in the pattern. Elena points to the regular pulses appearing in the data. That's not random noise. That's structured. She reaches for her phone. I'm calling SETI headquarters. Across the globe in the Pentagon Space Monitoring Division, Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Williams receives an alert from the Orbital Defense Network. Sir, we're tracking an unknown object at the edge of our solar system, reports a young technician. It's small, approximately the size of a commercial airliner, and it's not following any known trajectory. Classify test vehicle, asks Williams. Negative, sir. We've confirmed with NASA, SpaceX, and all international space agencies. Nobody has anything that far out that matches these parameters. Williams nods gravely. Keep monitoring but maintain communications blackout. Let's not start a panic over what might be space debris. He makes a note to brief his superiors at the next scheduled meeting, assigning the anomaly a routine priority code. Back aboard the Imperial scout ship, Captain Vex Marin reviews the final assessment before transmission to the Imperial fleet. The report categorizes Earth as a Type C civilization, technologically developed enough to exploit planetary resources, but lacking the advancement for meaningful resistance against Imperial forces. Add a note about their biological makeup. Vex Marin instructs his communications officer. Their carbon-based physiology and oxygen dependency make them suitable for labor on our core worlds with minimal atmospheric adjustment. As the scout ship prepares to return to the Imperial fleet, Vex Marin takes one last look at the blue planet. Such a shame, he muses. They'd built cities of impressive scale, even created crude flying machines. In another 10,000 cycles, they might have become something interesting. He sighs dramatically. Log the final entry. Earth presents no significant challenges for Imperial acquisition. Recommend standard colonization protocol with minimal military presence. The scout ship engages its hyperdrive, leaving behind no trace of its presence except for the faint anomalous readings still puzzling scientists at Arecibo and a handful of other observatories around the world. Humanity continues its daily routines, unaware that they've just been assessed, categorized, and scheduled for conquest by an empire that has never known defeat, an empire about to learn a devastating lesson about underestimating opponents. The Imperial landing craft touched down with precision on the vast expanse of asphalt, hydraulic legs extending to stabilize their positions. Commander Grelfax of the 31st Subjugation Division steps onto Earth soil with ceremonial gravity, his ceremonial battle armor gleaming under the fluorescent lights of the Lakewood Town Center parking lot. Behind him, rows of Imperial shock troops form into intimidating patterns that would strike terror into the hearts of any species they've previously encountered. "Sir," his adjutant whispers urgently, "the natives are approaching." Indeed, a crowd of curious humans has gathered at the hastily erected police barricade. Many hold up rectangular devices, recording the historic moment while chatting excitedly. A small child waves enthusiastically from atop her father's shoulders. They seem unaware of protocol. Grelfax notes with confusion. No prostration, no offering of soil or water, not even proper fear responses. He consults his tactical display. Perhaps they're simply ignorant of proper first contact procedures. Meanwhile, Denver Police Sergeant Maria Gutierrez maintains calm at the perimeter, her hand resting casually on her holstered sidearm. "Folks, please stay behind the line," she announces through a bullhorn. "We don't know if these visitors are friendly yet." "They're so small," calls out one bystander, "like angry space chihuahuas." Laughter ripples through the crowd, further bewildering the Imperial forces who expected their arrival to cause mass panic. Inside the mall, store managers debate whether to close early. "Do aliens count as a weather emergency?" asks the assistant manager of Bath and Body Works. "Because I don't have authorization to shut down unless it's in the emergency protocols." At the Cinnabon, employees hand out free samples to the growing crowd. "Best day for sales ever," remarks the franchise owner, watching people coo for comfort food while witnessing humanity's first alien encounter. In orbit, Admiral Zex Corvian aboard the Imperial command vessel Indomitable Purpose monitors the landing operations with increasing concern. Why have the humans not activated their planetary defense systems? He demands of his strategic analysts. "Unknown, Admiral," responds Chief Analyst Vortic. "It's possible they're attempting to lull us into complacency before counterattacking." Or perhaps, suggests the Admiral's senior advisor with hesitation, "our intelligence regarding their military capacity was incorrect." The Admiral's secondary breathing slits flare with irritation. Impossible. The reconnaissance was thorough. Nevertheless, he orders additional scans of Earth's military installations. The scans reveal perplexing information. Human military bases remain at normal activity levels. No heightened alert status is detected. Nuclear launch facilities show no preparation for deployment. Air defense systems remain in standby mode. Could they be so primitive they don't recognize us as a threat? Wonders the Admiral aloud, his voice tinged with disbelief. Back in Montana, rancher Mike Callahan watches the strange craft hovering above his south pasture with mild annoyance. They're spooking his cattle and making his border collie bark incessantly. He lifts his weathered cowboy hat and scratches his head. "Hey," he shouts, waving his arms. "You're on private property." Inside the Imperial scout vessel, Lieutenant Drasmore reports with confusion. "Captain, a native is attempting communication through primitive gestures." "Is he surrendering?" asks the captain hopefully. "I don't believe so, sir. According to our cultural database, he appears to be expressing territorial dissatisfaction." The captain sighs. "Initiate the intimidation protocol." The scout ship's weapon system powers up, emitting a high-pitched whine, designed to cause fear in most sentient species. A small energy beam fires, creating a smoking crater in the dirt about the size of a dinner plate. Mike Callahan looks at the tiny smoking hole, then back at the hovering craft. With remarkable calm, he pulls out his cell phone and dials the local sheriff again. "John, those weird drones are shooting at my property now. Didn't hit much, but I'd appreciate if someone came out to take a report for the insurance." He pauses, listening. No rush. They don't seem to be doing much damage. Maybe send someone after lunch. In Washington, D.C., the president receives initial reports about the landings occurring across the country. The National Security Advisor presents satellite imagery showing the alien vessels. "So they're what, about the size of buses?" asks the president, studying the photos. "Some smaller, some larger, Mr. President. The largest appears to be roughly the size of a cruise ship." The president leans back in his chair. "And their weapons capabilities, based on the Montana incident, minimal. They appear to have energy weapons, but with surprisingly low yield." Interesting. The president taps his fingers thoughtfully on the resolute desk. "Let's proceed with caution, but not alarm. Alert all military commands to standby status, but no visible mobilization yet. I don't want to escalate if they're just here for conversation." He glances at his schedule. "And reschedule my 2 p.m. with the Canadian ambassador. Looks like I'll need that time slot for a potential first contact situation." Dr. Abena Ose's makeshift command center at MIT buzzes with activity as linguists, mathematicians, and computer scientists work through the night. Whiteboards covered in complex algorithms line the walls, while dozens of monitors display waveform analyses of the alien broadcasts. The patterns repeat every 7.3 seconds, notes graduate student Jin Park, his eyes bloodshot from staring at spectrograms for 15 hours straight. But there's a microtonal variation in the third harmonic that suggests syntactic markers. Dr. Ose nods, sipping her 6th cup of coffee. "Good catch. Run it through the neural network with that parameter adjusted." She turns to her colleague, Dr. Ramirez, who's examining mathematical sequences extracted from the signal. "Any luck with the numerical foundation?" "I think they're using a base 12 system," he replies, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Once we made that assumption, certain patterns became clear. They're sending the same message repeatedly, with slight variations that might indicate emphasis or context shifts." Across campus, the quantum computing lab has devoted all its processing power to the translation effort. The room hums with the sound of cooling systems working overtime as the computers analyze millions of linguistic permutations per second. "We've got something," announces Dr. Wei Chang over the secure video link. The system identified repeating phonemic structures that correspond to verbs and nouns with 78% confidence. Data streams across the screens as the first tentative translations appear. By dawn, they've assembled enough understanding to interpret basic concepts in the alien broadcasts. Dr. Osai presents their findings to the Emergency Scientific Summit, convened via video conference. The aliens refer to themselves as the Imperium. Their language structure is surprisingly rigid and formalistic, suggesting a highly hierarchical society. Their messages follow strict patterns, an identification of authority, a statement of intent, and a command sequence. Meanwhile, at the United Nations headquarters in New York, Secretary General Amaran Kosi convenes an emergency session of the Security Council. Representatives from 15 nations sit in tense silence as the first translated messages are displayed on the main screen. "Primitive carbon-based life forms," reads the translator with professional detachment. "Your star system is now annexed by the glorious eternal Imperium, ruler of 3,000 worlds. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient. Accept your categorization as Class C servitor species and prepare population centers for processing." The French ambassador raises an eyebrow. "Processing? According to our linguistic analysis," explains the translator, "they intend to establish labor camps for resource extraction. However, their work protocols indicate they believe humans can only perform physical labor for approximately 2 hours before requiring rest." She clears her throat. "They also specify that we will be permitted to keep domestic animals and will receive 1 nutritional supplement per day." "How generous," remarks the British representative dryly. The Chinese ambassador leans forward. "What exactly do they want from Earth?" The translator consults her notes. "Based on our translation, primarily mineral resources and manual labor. They repeatedly reference something called crystalline resonance matrices that they believe exist in our planet's crust. Back at the Lakewood Town Center in Denver, Imperial translator drones hover above the crowd, emitting their formal pronouncements. Local news stations broadcast the strange sounds live, with anchors bringing in experts to speculate on their meaning. It sounds like a cross between whale song and dial-up internet, comments Dr. Eleanor Hodges, marine biologist turned alien communication expert, on Denver's Channel 9 News. The station cuts to footage of children imitating the sounds while their parents record on smartphones. Memes are already spreading across social media, with people setting the alien broadcasts to dance music and creating lip-sync videos. At MIT, Dr. Osei's team achieves another breakthrough. "We've identified their communication protocols," announces Dr. Ramirez excitedly. They're using a quantum entanglement system for instantaneous communication across vast distances. But he pauses, looking surprised. Their encryption is remarkably simple. It's based on mathematical principles we mastered decades ago. "Can we access their communications network?" asks Dr. Osei. Dr. Ramirez grins. "Not only access it, we can broadcast on it. Their security protocols are designed to prevent interference from what they consider technologically equivalent civilizations. They never considered that a primitive species would even detect their network, let alone penetrate it." Dr. Osei picks up her secure phone to call Washington. "Mr. President, we have an opportunity. The aliens have unwittingly given us access to their entire communication system. We can not only understand what they're saying to us, we can hear what they're saying to each other." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, Commander Drackthorn watches with mounting frustration as the graviton beam strikes Chicago's downtown. The sleek control panels surrounding him display real-time damage assessments, or rather, the conspicuous lack thereof. "Impossible," he mutters, his scaled crest flattening against his skull in agitation. "Increase power to maximum capacity." "Sir," protests his chief engineer, "the graviton emitters are already at 87% of safe operating parameters. Pushing beyond 90% risks destabilizing the containment field." "Do it anyway," Drackthorn commands, multiple rows of teeth clicking in irritation. These primitives must learn respect. The beam intensifies, causing a momentary power surge that trips circuit breakers across several blocks of Chicago's financial district. At the Willis Tower, backup generators activate automatically, restoring power within seconds. Security guards glance upward at the strange atmospheric disturbance visible through the glass ceiling of the lobby. "Probably testing some new weather monitoring system," remarks one guard to another. "Didn't you get that emergency alert on your phone about unusual atmospheric conditions today?" At Wrigley Field, the baseball game continues without interruption. The Cubs are trailing the Cardinals 5-3 in the bottom of the seventh. As the graviton beam creates a brief aurora-like effect in the sky, the announcer mentions it casually. "Folks, if you look toward the skyline, you can see some of those strange lights that have been reported across the country today." Now, back to the game. Rodriguez steps up to the plate with runners on first and second. In geosynchronous orbit, the Imperial tactical officer reports with disbelief. "Commander, our scans indicate the graviton beam is being absorbed somehow. The primitive structures remain intact." What the aliens don't understand is that Chicago, like most major Earth cities, has endured decades of extreme weather events that prompted significant infrastructure upgrades. Buildings are designed to withstand forces far greater than the Imperial weapon can generate. The graviton beam, calibrated to collapse the relatively fragile structures common on other conquered worlds, barely registers against Earth's reinforced steel, concrete, and advanced composite materials. At Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, Captain Lisa Hernandez leads her squadron through final preparations. The pilots, already in their flight suits, receive last-minute intelligence updates as they head toward their F-35s. "Listen up," Captain Hernandez addresses her pilots. "NORAD confirms the alien craft have some kind of energy shielding, but it appears optimized against directed energy weapons, not kinetics. Will load standard air-to-air missiles and engage at medium range to test their defenses. Rules of engagement, Captain, asks her wingman, Lieutenant James Chen. Protect civilian populations at all costs. If the targets move away from populated areas, shadow but do not engage unless fired upon. If they target civilians or infrastructure, you are cleared to use all necessary force. The squadron of 12 F-35s roars into the sky, afterburners blazing as they climb to intercept altitude. On her tactical display, Captain Hernandez watches the alien formation. 5 smaller craft supporting what appears to be a command vessel, hovering over Street Lewis. Eagle Squadron, this is Eagle 1. She radios to her team. Standard intercept pattern. Weapons hot. Stay in formation until my mark. The F-35s approach at supersonic speed, their advanced stealth technology rendering them nearly invisible to conventional detection systems. The Imperial ships, designed to detect the energy signatures of spacecraft, fail to notice the approaching fighters until they're within missile range. Primitives approaching an atmospheric craft, reports the Imperial sensor operator with dismissive confidence. Deploying countermeasures. The alien vessels release what they consider advanced defensive measures, fields designed to disrupt energy weapons and deflect plasma-based attacks. Against the solid projectiles of human missiles, they might as well be tissue paper. Fox 3, announces Captain Hernandez calmly, launching an AIM-120 AMRAAM missile toward the lead Imperial craft. Her squadron follows suit, releasing a coordinated volley of missiles. The Imperial commander barely has time to register surprise before the first missile strikes his vessel's unprotected hull. The shield, optimized for energy dispersion, offers no resistance to the kinetic impact. 3 alien craft spiral toward the ground trailing smoke, while the others attempt evasive maneuvers that might impress other Imperial forces, but appear sluggish and predictable to fighter pilots trained for high-G aerial combat against human opponents. Eagle Squadron, targets are taking evasive action, Captain Hernandez reports. Switch to guns and engage at will. Remember your training. These may be alien craft, but physics still applies. The F-35s break formation with practiced precision, each pilot selecting a target. The remaining Imperial vessels, despite their supposed technological superiority, find themselves outmaneuvered by aircraft designed through centuries of ever-evolving aerial warfare doctrine. The United Nations Security Council chamber buzzes with unprecedented activity as representatives from nations that haven't cooperatively addressed a crisis in decades work together with remarkable efficiency. On the central display, a real-time map tracks alien vessel positions worldwide, updated by a global network of military and civilian sensors. The Chinese delegation offers full access to our quantum computing facilities to assist with decryption efforts, announces Ambassador Liu, breaking decades of secrecy regarding China's advanced computing capabilities. The Russian Federation will coordinate our northern defense grid with NATO systems, adds the Russian representative, causing several delegates to exchange surprised glances. Secretary General Nkosi nods appreciatively at each offer. This crisis transcends our historical differences. I'm heartened by humanity's unified response. In a secure basement beneath Singapore's Agency for Science, Technology and Research, *STR, Dr. Madeline carefully disassembles components from a captured alien propulsion system. Her team works methodically, scanning each piece with instruments ranging from electron microscopes to mass spectrometers. The design philosophy is fascinating. She observes, examining a crystalline structure under high magnification. It's elegant but inefficient. They've prioritized aesthetics over function. Her colleague, Dr. Ranjit Patel, nods in agreement. Their engineering assumes abundant energy. Look at these coolant systems. They're losing at least 30% of generated power as heat. They've never had to optimize. Dr. Lin realizes A species that conquered thousands of worlds would never face resource scarcity or energy limitations. Across the globe in Silicon Valley, a different kind of response unfolds. The headquarters of major tech companies have transformed overnight into command centers where engineers and programmers work alongside military cybersecurity experts. We've isolated their communication protocols, announces Zhou Chen, a 22-year-old security researcher who normally hunts bugs for Google. Their encryption is surprisingly linear, almost like they never expected anyone to attempt breaking it. It's the ultimate example of security through obscurity, adds her colleague, Marcus Williams. They assumed their methods were so advanced that primitives like us wouldn't even recognize them as technology. The team has already created an interface that intercepts and decodes Imperial communications in real time. Military intelligence officers watch in amazement as tactical orders, fleet movements, and resource allocations from the Imperial command structure appear on their screens. They're completely exposed, remarks Air Force Cyber Command Colonel Diane Harper. It's like they're shouting their battle plans across an open field. In Geneva, the World Health Organization coordinates with research hospitals to analyze alien biological samples. Dr. Emmanuel Okonkwo peers through a microscope at cellular structures unlike anything in Earth's biological record. Their cellular metabolism is fascinating, he notes to his colleagues. But their immune systems are remarkably simple, evolved to resist a narrow range of pathogens. They'd be vulnerable to countless Earth microorganisms. His colleague, Dr. Sophia Lindstrom, looks up from genetic sequencing data. They also lack genetic diversity. The specimens from different ships show 99.7% genetic similarity, suggesting extensive cloning or extreme bottlenecking in their evolution. A species that conquered rather than adapted, Dr. Okonkwo muses. They solved problems through dominance rather than innovation. On social media platforms, civilians coordinate their own response. Facebook groups and Reddit communities dedicated to alien sighting reports provide near-instantaneous updates on Imperial movements, often faster than official channels. Citizens with telescopes form an impromptu early warning network, tracking Imperial ships and sharing data through specially created apps. A viral tweet captures the public mood. Dear Space Invaders, we've spent our entire history fighting our ASALVs. Did you really think we wouldn't be ready for you? #HumanityUnited we've been practicing. Even entertainment shifts to support the defense effort. Gaming communities repurpose their servers to contribute computing power for decryption and simulation efforts. Sci-fi authors and defense analysts collaborate on strategy documents, examining potential alien weaknesses based on observed behavior. In Stockholm, teenage hacker collective Digital Vikings announces their successful penetration of Imperial navigation systems. Their networked systems have basically no segmentation, explains 16-year-old Elsa Bergstrom in a secure video call with Netto Cyber Command. Once we found one access point, it led to everything else. The collective demonstrates their access by temporarily changing Imperial transponder identifications to character names from Star Wars. For 6 minutes, military tracking systems around the world show Imperial vessels renamed Darth Vader, Emperor Palpatine, and Jar Jar Binks, before NATO officials politely request they restore the original designations for clarity. Sorry, Elsa responds with a slight smile. Just proving the concept. But we've mapped their entire command structure now. We can disrupt or manipulate their communications whenever needed. Emperor Zorkathic's inner sanctum falls silent as the Imperial messengers prostrate themselves before the crystalline throne. The Emperor's 6 eyes focus on the trembling figure before him, narrowing to pinpoints of cold fury. You claim our initial forces were defeated. The Emperor's voice remains unnervingly calm, though the membranous gills along his neck flush a dangerous shade of crimson. Great One, the humans possess unexpected capabilities, stammers the messenger. Their weapons, while primitive in design, deliver devastating kinetic force that A flick of the Emperor's elongated finger activates the execution platform beneath the messenger. The unfortunate bearer of bad news dissolves into component atoms with a brief flash of light and a lingering scream. "Prepare my battle fleet," Zorkathic commands, rising to his full 3-meter height. "I will oversee this subjugation personally." In the Imperial War Chamber, Grand Admiral Kexforlan reviews the deployment plans with his command staff. Holographic displays show the positions of the 300 warships being diverted from other conquered systems. "We will position the fleet in a Thanatos formation," the Admiral explains, manipulating the holographic representation. "The pattern will cast shadow over their major population centers, a psychological tactic that has broken resistance on 17 previous worlds." His tactical officer hesitates before speaking. "Admiral, preliminary reports suggest human visual perception and psychological responses differ from standard conquest profiles. Their military doctrine appears to prioritize functional concerns over symbolic displays." The Admiral dismisses the concern with a gesture. "All species fear the shadow of inevitable doom. Deploy as planned." Aboard the Imperial flagship Resplendent Glory, Emperor Zorkathic observes the blue planet growing larger on the view screen. "Such a beautiful world," he muses to his attendants. "Soon to be another jewel in our collection." The Emperor's personal bodyguard, Commander Vextelon, approaches with a rare expression of concern on his normally impassive face. "Your Magnificence, intelligence has compiled further analysis of human warfare capabilities. They recommend caution in." "Caution." The Emperor's voice drips with disdain. "Against primitives who have barely left their atmosphere. I have conquered species who had spread across dozens of star systems. These humans will kneel before me by day's end." On Earth, General Yin Wei watches the incoming alien armada from China's Space Forces Command in Beijing. Wall-sized displays show 3-dimensional representations of the approaching vessels, their formation shifting into what appears to be a ceremonial pattern. "They're arranging themselves to cast shadows on major cities," observes Colonel Zhang, her tactical officer. "Psychological warfare, perhaps." General Yin allows herself a small smile. Or perhaps they simply wish to present easier targets. She turns to her communications officer. "Connect me to the Combined Earth Defense Network." Within moments, military commanders from 27 nations appear on separate screens, their backgrounds indicating command centers from Washington to Moscow, from New Delhi to Brasilia. The Imperial fleet has committed to a static formation, General Yin informs her colleagues. They appear to prioritize visual impact over tactical advantage. "I recommend immediate implementation of Operation Thunderstroke." Nods of agreement come from each screen. The American general speaks for the group. "Confirmed. Weapons free at your discretion, General Yin. The honor of first response is yours." From hidden silos in the Gobi Desert, China's newest anti-satellite missiles surge upward on columns of flame. Developed to counter orbital weapons platforms of terrestrial adversaries, these missiles now target alien vessels with perfect precision. Simultaneously, Russian submarine commanders in the North Atlantic receive launch authorization. Missile hatches open silently beneath the waves as specially modified submarine-launched interceptors prepare to join the assault. Across India, mobile launcher platforms emerge from camouflaged positions. Brazil's space defense grid, officially non-existent according to international treaties, powers up its kinetic impact systems. In geosynchronous orbit, satellites previously registered as weather and communications platforms reveal their true purpose, dropping their outer shells to expose weapon systems designed for space warfare. The Imperial fleet remains in perfect formation, unaware that every vessel is targeted by multiple Earth weapon systems. In their arrogance, they've positioned themselves ideally for a coordinated strike. Aboard the Resplendent Glory, a junior sensor operator notices unusual energy signatures emanating from the planet below. "Highness, I'm detecting multiple launch events across the planet's surface." Emperor Zorkathic waves a dismissive hand. "Primitive demonstrations of defiance. Begin the intimidation barrage as planned. But before the Imperial gunners can activate their weapons, the first wave of Earth's missiles reaches the fleet. Designed to penetrate the most sophisticated terrestrial countermeasures, these weapons encounter no meaningful resistance from Imperial shields calibrated against energy weapons. "Impact imminent," shouts the sensor operator, genuine fear in his voice for the first time. The Emperor rises from his throne in shock as the first explosions bloom across his perfect formation. "Impossible," he whispers as damage reports flood in from dozens of vessels simultaneously. Grand Admiral Sexvorin staggers as another impact rocks the resplendent claw. Emergency lighting flickers, bathing the command bridge in an eerie red glow. Around him, Imperial officers frantically work to maintain critical systems as damage reports flood in from all decks. "Status report," he demands, wiping fluorescent blue blood from a gash on his forehead. 67% of the fleet has been destroyed or disabled, reports his tactical officer, mandibles clicking in distress. The remainder are retreating to defensive positions behind this planet's satellite. The Admiral stares in disbelief at the tactical display, showing the devastation of what was, hours ago, the pride of the Imperial fleet. How? Their technology is centuries behind ours. "Sir," interjects the Imperial xenopsychologist, Professor Mielkora, her voice uncharacteristically urgent. "I've been analyzing intercepted human communications and historical records. I believe we fundamentally misunderstood what we're facing." The Admiral gestures for her to continue as he studies damage assessments. "The humans have no unified government, no central authority," she explains, calling up visuals on a still-functioning display. Yet in response to our arrival, they've coordinated a global defense with remarkable efficiency. This indicates deep experience with complex, multi-faction conflicts. She brings up historical footage that Imperial intelligence had previously dismissed as entertainment: armored vehicles moving across desert landscapes, aircraft carriers cutting through oceans, missile launches, and nuclear tests. "These aren't fictional entertainment as we assumed," she continues. "They're historical records. The humans have been fighting each other continuously throughout their recorded history. Their technological development has been driven primarily by warfare against equally capable opponents." The Admiral's expression shifts from disbelief to dawning horror. "You're saying they evolved fighting themselves?" "Precisely. While we developed technology through peaceful expansion, encountering only primitive resistance from less advanced species, humans developed their technology through direct competition with identical opponents." She highlights images of Earth's nuclear arsenals. "Their weapons aren't designed to intimidate or subjugate. They're designed to annihilate equally advanced enemies." In another section of the crippled flagship, Communications Officer Trelvor makes another disturbing discovery as he analyzes human media broadcasts. "Admiral," he reports via internal communication, "I've been monitoring their information networks. The humans are sharing tactical data about our ship's vulnerabilities across global information systems. Civilians are participating in data analysis and strategy development alongside their military personnel." He sends visuals showing online forums where engineering students debate the most effective ways to disable Imperial shield generators, while retired military officers discuss tactical approaches to engaging the remaining fleet. "Their society has no distinction between military and civilian knowledge," Trelvor continues. "Technologies we reserve for warrior castes are common knowledge among their general population. Children's educational materials contain information about physics and chemistry that our society restricts to specialized researchers." The Admiral absorbs this information in silence before turning to his xenobiologist. "What about their biological capabilities? Surely there we maintain superiority." Science Officer Dex Mera shakes her head grimly. "Their biological adaptability exceeds anything in our records. They inhabit environments ranging from Arctic tundra to equatorial deserts. They can survive temperature variations that would kill most Imperial citizens. Their immune systems have evolved to combat millions of pathogens. Even more concerning," she hesitates. "Speak freely," commands the Admiral. They appear to thrive on adversity. Historical records show that after devastating conflicts or natural disasters, they typically emerge with accelerated technological and social development. Hardship seems to drive innovation rather than submission. The Admiral turns back to the viewscreen, watching as Earth's orbital defense platforms methodically target the remaining Imperial vessels attempting to regroup behind the Moon. A terrible understanding dawns on him. Their homeworld has limited resources, he muses aloud. They evolved competing for what little they had against opponents with identical capabilities and similar intelligence. While we conquered weaker species and grew complacent, they fought themselves and grew stronger. Professor Mielkora nods solemnly. There's another critical factor, Admiral. Despite their capacity for violence, they're showing remarkable restraint. Our intelligence indicates they possess weapons capable of complete planetary destruction. Yet they're using precision strikes only against our military assets. They're not fighting for conquest, the Admiral realizes. They're fighting for survival, something they have thousands of years of experience doing. He straightens his posture, coming to a decision. Prepare the quantum entanglement communicator. I must report to the Emperor immediately. The launch of Phoenix from the Sea of Tranquility draws observers from across Earth and beyond. Its sleek hull, incorporating both salvaged Imperial technology and human innovation, gleams in the unfiltered sunlight of lunar day. Inside the vessel's command center, Captain Diana Chen reviews final system checks with her multinational crew. Quantum drive at optimal parameters, reports her engineer, Dr. Vikram Patel. Efficiency readings exceed Imperial specifications by 22%. Navigation systems online, adds Lieutenant Olufemi Adeyemi, his fingers dancing across holographic controls adapted from Imperial designs, but enhanced with human interface principles. Course plotted for the Arcturus system as our first waypoint. Captain Chen nods, allowing herself a small smile. Let's make history, shall we? Phoenix actual to Tranquility Base. We are go for launch. Godspeed, Phoenix, comes the response from Lunar Control. Humanity is watching. The vessel rises silently from the lunar surface, its gravity manipulation systems, reverse-engineered from Imperial technology, but dramatically improved, allowing for acceleration that would have astonished the aliens who inadvertently provided the technological foundation. As Phoenix clears lunar orbit, Captain Chen addresses her crew. 6 months ago, humanity learned we weren't alone in the universe. Today, we take our place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as servants, but as equals to any species we might encounter. 12 light-years away on Kalfor Prime, the Imperial capital world, revolution has transformed the gleaming metropolis. The Imperial Palace, once a monument to Zorkathic's unchallenged authority, now bears scorch marks from the brief but violent uprising. Inside the throne room, Empress Ixnera, formerly the Emperor's chief scientific advisor, receives the human delegation with careful protocol. The Imperium welcomes Earth's representatives, she announces, her translator rendering her complex tonal language into precise English. Her 4 arms perform the ceremonial gestures of diplomatic greeting, though the Imperial guards flanking the throne betray tension in their rigid posture. Ambassador Sofia Rodriguez approaches the crystalline throne with measured steps, neither rushed nor hesitant. Behind her, representatives from 16 other Earth nations form a unified front, scientists, diplomats, and military officers, presenting a carefully balanced depiction of human capability and intention. Empress Ixnera, Earth thanks you for this audience. Ambassador Rodriguez begins. We come seeking neither domination nor submission, but mutual understanding and peaceful coexistence. The Empress's multifaceted eyes study the human delegation with scientific curiosity. The Imperium acknowledges its error in previous dealings with your species. We seek to establish more appropriate relations. In the diplomatic chambers adjoining the throne room, negotiations proceed with remarkable efficiency. Dr. Xiang Lei, Earth's chief scientific representative, reviews the proposed technology exchange protocols with his Imperial counterpart. We're prepared to share advancements in sustainable agriculture and disease treatment, Dr. Lai explains, displaying holographic models of drought-resistant crops and targeted medical nanites. In exchange, we request complete star charts of known space and access to established trade routes. The Imperial scientist, still somewhat bewildered by humans' collaborative approach, nods agreement. The Empress has authorized full astronomical data transfer. However, he adds cautiously, we note your proposal specifically excludes weapons technology exchange. Dr. Lai smiles diplomatically. We believe defense technologies should remain respective sovereign matters, at least for the initial 50-year treaty period. What goes unsaid, but understood by both parties, is that Imperial military technology has proven demonstrably inferior to Earth's. The proposed treaty terms reflect not just diplomatic niceties, but the new reality of power in this section of the galaxy. Later, as the human delegation's transport vessel departs the Imperial capital, military observer Colonel Jackson contemplates the changed skyline. They're still watching us carefully, he notes to Ambassador Rodriguez, pointing out the Imperial defense platforms tracking their departure. Of course, she replies. We've completely upended their understanding of galactic hierarchy. For thousands of years, they encountered only species they could easily dominate. We're the first to defeat them, and then offer peace instead of conquest. Do you think they'll honor the treaty? Asks Dr. Ariana Patel, the delegation's xenoanthropologist. The ambassador considers for a moment. Their society values order and hierarchy above all else. We've established a new hierarchy, one where humans are recognized as equals rather than subjects. Yes, I believe they'll honor it, if only because the alternative is unthinkable to them now. As their vessel accelerates toward the jump point for Earth, Communications Officer Lieutenant Torres receives an unexpected transmission. Ambassador, Imperial astronomical authorities are sending additional navigational warnings. They've established a new classification zone around our entire solar system. The ambassador raises an eyebrow. What designation have they given us? Lieutenant Torres suppresses a smile as he reads the translation. Sol System, home of humanity. Approach with extreme caution and perfect manners.